Hello friends! Today we are gonna create this beautiful portfolio website using React and Three.js. All these items on the website are 3D models, so we can hold and rotate them as we want. In this project you will learn Three.js basics and you will be able to create your own 3D shapes. And you will see how easy to import ready-to-use 3D models to your project. We will also cover CSS animations and create this text transition without using any libraries. After that, we will create a contact page using a map library so you can add here your own address. Then we will add a form functionality, and when someone sends a message to you, you will see that message in your mailbox immediately. By the way, this project will be mobile responsive, so you'll learn how to use media queries in styled components. Finally, we will deploy this website using Hostinger. It's one of the most popular hosting providers and the sponsor of this video. As you know, I deploy all my projects to Hostinger from the beginning of the channel because the servers are super fast and it has a really user-friendly panel that you can easily manage your services. And now, when you buy hosting at Hostinger, you will get 2 extra months free. And don't forget, you will get a free domain at this price. And if you use the link in the description below and Lama Dev coupon code here, you are gonna get an extra discount. After purchasing, you will be able to claim your free domain. And after the domain registration, we can set up our hosting. I'll choose my new domain and let's finish the setup. It's gonna take a while, and here in this panel you can manage your hosting and domain, and you can deploy here 100 websites. If you are ready, let's create our application and deploy it here. Okay, I created a new folder, and inside this folder we will create a React application. To do that, we are going to be using with. You can create your application writing here yarn create with, but there is a shortcut. We are going to be using Lama Dev GitHub repository, and in this repository we have this branch, and as you can see there is only app.js and main.js. It's ready to start our application. We don't have to delete anything or add any additional configuration, so we are going to be using this branch. So I will come here, copy this URL, and I will say git clone, single branch, the branch name. I'm going to paste my URL, dot, and enter. As you can see, they are here. Let's install the libraries. I will say yarn. And after that, let's see what we are going to have. As you can see, we have 4 sections. And for each section, we are going to be using snap scrolling effect. So when I scroll, as you can see, it just skips one page. To do that, I'm going to create here my components folder. And the first component will be the hero section. Let's create our function. This is going to be our hero section. We are going to introduce ourselves, our works, and finally a contact page. Let's create them. Another one, who we are, our works, and contact. Normally we create more sections, but in this tutorial we are going to be focusing on Three.js, so we are going to have only 4 sections. So let's open up the app.js and import our sections. First one will be the hero section, works, and contact. Okay, To give this snapping effect, we are gonna need some CSS styles. To do that, we are gonna be using styled components. Of course, if you want to, you can use a plain CSS or Sass, but doesn't matter. It's gonna be really basic and you are gonna understand everything. So I will say yarn add styled components. Okay, right now instead of this HTML div, we can create our styled component. To do that, I will say const, let's say container. You can give any name here, doesn't matter. It's basically like writing here a class name. Instead, we are gonna directly create our component here. So I'm gonna be using styled. And which HTML element I'm gonna create is gonna be a div. So I will say div, and I'm gonna open up a backtick here and close. And inside I can write my style, just like CSS, nothing different. I will say height 100 VH, so it's gonna be a full screen container. And let's give here a background color. And let's say this purple color. And inside of this div, I'm gonna be using my container. So let's run our application. I will say yarn, run, and dev. Let's open up. Okay, as you can see, it's here. And right now I'm gonna create containers for each component here. And they're gonna be full screen, so we can snap like that. And after that, you'll learn how to give that effect. So I can copy here and paste for hero section. Let's import this style components. And let's say actually section. Because we are going to create container inside this section. Why I'm doing this? That because this is going to be the section and container is going to start from here. As you can see, there is a padding. That's why I changed its name. Okay, I will copy this and for this one, but before, don't forget changing here. I will say section. And the other one. Let's change this background color and we can see better. Another one. And contact. Okay, as you can see, the hero section, who, works, and contact. By the way, why it's not full screen? Let's check. That's because I didn't import style components. Okay, awesome. Right now, let's give our snapping effect. To do that, I'm gonna open up app.js and I will write here. Let's delete this background color and I will say scroll snap type is gonna be on the y-axis and I will say mandatory. So snap scrolling is gonna work in any case. And I will say scroll behavior smooth. So when we scroll, as you can see, it's moving slightly, not too fast. And I will say overflow y is gonna be auto. That's because we said height 100 VH. In this case, it's gonna be overflowing, but we are gonna let that to overflow. It's not a problem. And finally, I'm gonna delete the scroll bar. As you can see, there is a scroll bar here. I don't wanna see that. So I will say scroll bar width. And it's gonna be none. But it's not gonna work for Chrome. It's gonna work for only Firefox. So I'm gonna come here and say WebKit, scroll bar, and display none. Let's see. Okay, it's gone. So I'm gonna open up the hero section and I will say scroll snap align and it's gonna be center. I'm gonna do exactly the same thing for other components. I'm gonna scroll, and as you can see, it skips the whole component. Okay, perfect. It works. By the way, I can change the text color. It's gonna be white. And let's give a background image here. I will say background URL, and we are gonna be using an image here. It's gonna be in image folder. Let's create that image folder, by the way. I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna create my public folder. And inside image. And I'm gonna drag and drop my images inside this folder. Like that. We are gonna be using this background. So let's write it here. So I can delete my backgrounds. We don't need them anymore. We are gonna be using only one background. Like that. Okay, so let's start with the hero section. Firstly, we are going to have this navbar. Let's create. I will close every tab here and open up the hero section. So I'm going to create here a navbar, but it's better to create another component here. Let's create the function. I'm going to copy this and paste here. Let's delete those and import styled components. And I'm going to import this navbar component here. Okay, it's here. So let's come here and create another styled component. And it's going to be container. As I said, we are going to give a space. So we are going to be using this container. But before, let's center our container. To do that, I will say display flags and justify content center. Let's write here the container div and inside navbar. If I give here any width and background color, you are going to see better. I will say background color and this purple color. And as you can see, it's centered. That because we are using justify content here. If I delete, as you can see, it's going to start from the left side. This is why we are using justify content center. And in our example, as you can see, we are going to have two sections, those links and those items. Let's create them. First section will be, let's say, links is going to be a div. And the second one will be, let's say, icons. Let's write them here. I will say links, icons, and inside these links, we are going to have our logo. Actually, let's create here first, and after we can create styled components. I will say logo is going to be an image. So I will say source. We are going to be using our image folder, and inside logo.png. Let's check. Okay, this one. And after, I'm going to add here some links. To do that, I'm going to create a list here. Of course, capital. And inside, we are going to have 4 items. Let's say list item. I will say home page and other texts here. It doesn't matter. And inside icons, we are going to have an icon and a button. So let's say icon is going to be an image. That's right here. Source is going to be image folder, and what was the name? This, I think. Okay. search.png. And finally, a button. And I will say hire now. Okay. Let's create others. It's gonna be logo, list, list item, icon, and button. It's gonna be an HTML image, list, I will say UL, list item, li, and what else? Icon and button. Again, image and a button. Okay, as you can see, it's that easy to create styled components. We are just writing styled dot any HTML element here. Let's see. Okay, I forgot something, I think. Okay, we didn't create icons. I thought I did, but I forgot. I'm gonna save. And it's here. So let's delete this background color and separate our sections, those links and icons. I'm gonna delete this. I will say display flags, so it's gonna be horizontal, and I will say justify content space between. As you can see, they are separated. I can align items. Let's say align item center. Okay, they are centered. So what about those links? They are gonna be horizontal also. Let's do the same thing here. I'll say display flags, align item center, like that. And I can give a space here between our logo and links. To do that, I will say gap 20. It's gonna be a 20 pixels space here. Maybe I can increase. Okay, it's better. I will do the same thing for our links. They are gonna be horizontal, and I'm gonna give space between them. Display flags, gap 20. Okay, let's delete those dots. To do that, I'll say list style and no. Okay, awesome. But this logo is too big. Let's give a height. Height will be 50. By the way, I'm gonna separate them. Okay. Okay, it looks nice. Let's check here. As you can see, there's a space here. We can give a space for our container. I'll say padding 10 from top and bottom, but I'm not gonna give from left and right, so it's gonna be 0. Okay, so the left side is ready. Let's take care of this side. Again, display flags, align item center, and I'm gonna give gap. And for this image, I'm gonna give a width. It's too big. I'm gonna copy here and paste. And the gap will be 20 pixels. And for my icon, I will say 20. And let's give cursor pointer so we can click. I can do the same thing for list items. Like that. Okay, perfect. And let's give a style for this button. I will give width, padding, background color will be this pink color, and the text color will be white. Like that. Let's delete this border, and I can give border radius. And finally, we will be able to click here, so I'm gonna give cursor pointer. I'll say border none, border radius 5 pixels, and cursor pointer. Okay, so the navbar is ready. Let's take care of these sections. We are gonna have 2 sections, those texts and those images. I'm gonna close here. Firstly, I'm gonna create a container. Again, I should say display flags, justify content center. But actually, I should do something different here, that because our container will be here. Let me show. Container, and I'm gonna write something let's say hero section. As you can see, we have two items inside this parent. If I say display flex, it's going to be horizontal, like that. We don't want to do that. So I'm going to change its direction. So I will say flex direction column. As you can see, it's vertical right now. So I'm going to change here. It's going to be align items center. And I can say justify content space between. This is our navbar and this is our container. Let's give a width for this container. If you remember, 1400. And I will say display flex and justify content space between. I'm doing that because remember we have two items, this left side and right side. It's gonna be horizontal. And let's create them. I will say left and right. Of course, you can give different name because when we change the style for the responsive design, it's not going to be left and right anymore. It's going to be top and bottom, but I don't know. They can stay. Doesn't matter. Let's delete them and create here. Left side, right side, and inside left, we are going to have this h1 tag. We are going to have a div here that includes this line and this text, description, and a button. So I will say title. I'm going to copy and paste. And after that, I'm going to create another container. Let's say what we do. And inside, we are going to have a line. It's going to be an image. You are going to understand better right now. And a text, let's say subtitle or whatever you say. It's going to be this text and this image. And after this, we are going to have a description. Let's copy. And a button. Okay. For the right side, we are going to create this 3D model, but before, let's skip this section and add this image. 3D model, we will handle this, but for now, let's say image. And source will be, let's check. Okay, this one. moon.png. Of course, image folder. Let's check. Of course, it's going to be a white screen. We didn't create our items. Let's create them. Inside left, we are going to have h1 tag, what we do. Inside what we do, we have a line and subtitle. After that, we are going to create a description and button. And inside this right section, we are going to have an image. Let me write them quickly. Okay. And they are here. As you can see, it's horizontal. But as you realize, this left and right section have the same width. But in our example, as you can see, this part is a little bit bigger. So for this section, flex will be 2 units. And for this section, it's going to be 3 units. You are going to understand right now. I will say flex 2 and flex 3. As you can see, this side is bigger right now. If I increase this, right now it's 2 units, it's 8 units. It means it's 4 times bigger than this side. This is how it works. Okay, let's separate them, by the way. Okay, let's enter those items and give a space between them. To do that, again, we are going to be using display flex. Flex direction is going to be vertical, justify content center, and gap between them. like that. And for this title, I can increase the font size. Let's say 74. And for this section, for this div, I'm gonna say display flags, align item center, and gap between this line and this text. Let's decrease this size. I'm gonna come here and say height 5 pixels. Oops. Okay. Like that. So what about this p tag? By the way, I can change its color. What was the name? Subtitle, I think. Okay, it's here. Again, we are gonna be using the pink color. And for the p tag, font size will be a little bit bigger and color will be light gray. Like that. Awesome. And for this button, again, it's gonna be something like that. Pink color without border and text color will be white. Let's do that quickly. I will say background color, pink color, and the text color white. Font weight will be a little bit thicker, like that. Let's give a width, otherwise it's going to be too large. I will say 100 pixels. I'm going to give a padding inside, like that, and border. Border radius 5 pixels and cursor pointer. And what about this image? Let's change its width and height, like that. I will say object width. It's going to be contain. So it's going to contain this canvas. Later, we are going to give position absolute and it's going to be on this model. But for now, it can stay like that. Actually, let's do that. We don't need to wait for model. I will say position absolute. I'm going to center this. To do that, I can use top 0, bottom 0, left and right 0. And if I say margin auto, it's gonna center this vertically and horizontally. Let's see. As you can see, it's in the center of this section. That because we didn't give position relative for the parent div. If you don't do that, it's gonna center itself in the biggest parent, but we don't want to do that. I want to center this in the right section. So I'm gonna come here and say position relative. As you can see, it's here. Let's give background and see better. I'll say yellow. As you can see, it's centered. By the way, my eyes, it was not a good idea. Okay. And we are gonna give an animation here. I forgot that. Let's say animation. You can give here an animation name. I'll say animate. It's gonna take 2 seconds and it's gonna be infinite. It's not gonna stop. And the timing function will be ease. So it's gonna move slowly and I will say alternate. So when it finishes its animation, it's gonna turn back. It's not gonna stop there. Let's define our animation here. We are gonna write the animation name, animate, and let's check our example. As you can see, it's moving on the y-axis. To do that, we can use transform effect. So I will say to transform translate y. As you can see, we can choose 3D. In this case, we can move it on 3 dimensions. Translate x moves this on the x-axis. And here, we are going to be using y-axis. Let's give a big distance and you can see better. As you can see, it's moving on the y-axis 300 pixels. Of course, it's going to be 20. And perfect. You can also write here 100%. It's exactly the same thing, as you can see. Okay, we created our first section. Let's take care of this component. Let's check. It's going to be actually really similar, but the difference is the model is on the left side. It's going to be easy. Actually, I can copy here and paste for the who component. I'm going to paste. Of course, I should change this name. It's going to be who. And the left side will be the model. and the right side will be those texts. I'm gonna delete this, and let's move this 3D model to here. Of course, we don't need navbar, so I can delete here. And now I don't have to say flex direction, that's because we don't have navbar. So I can say justify content center, and I can delete here. And here, it's gonna be exactly the same. And as you can see, the left side and the right side have exactly the same size. So it's gonna be 1 and 1. They are gonna be equal. And I can cut this and paste for the right side. Because our texts will be here, I'm gonna take them under the right component. Like that. And we don't have any image. I'm gonna delete this and keyframes. Okay. Let's change those items. Let's check. I'm gonna copy this, paste here, who we are, description, and here, see our works. Let's check. Okay, perfect. Of course, I can increase this button size. Let's say 120. Okay, later we are gonna add here our model, but for now, let's check the other component. Okay, again, we are gonna have two sections, and we are gonna create this list. Let's close them, and I'm gonna open up works component, and I'm gonna create my styled components. First one will be container, left and right side, and here list and list items. Let's move this here under left. I will say list and list item. Let's say li and ul. Okay, let's give our style. As always, display flags, justify content center. And for the container, I'm gonna give my width 1400, and I'm gonna separate the left and the right side. Justify content space between. So let's give flags for the left side and the right side. And I'm gonna delete those. Let's create our items here, and after we can give style. I will say container, inside, left and right. And here, list and list items. Let's see. Web design, development, illustration. Actually, instead of creating here 5 items, I can create here a data that includes our item names, and using this array, we can call this list item. Let's do that. I will say data.map, and for each item inside, we are gonna call the list item component, and we are gonna write its name. Of course, if you are using map, you should give a unique key here, and it's gonna be the item itself. Okay, they are here. Let's center this. I'll say display flags, align item center, and justify content center. Like that. Actually, in our example, it starts from here, from the beginning. So I'm not gonna say justify content, it's gonna start here. So let's separate those items. And also I'm gonna delete those dots. I'm gonna come here. List style is gonna be none. By the way, let's separate them. I will say display flags, flags direction, and gap. And for each item, I'm going to increase the font size. It's going to be really big and bold. We can click on them, so I can say cursor pointer, and I'm going to give a text stroke. In our example, as you can see, we have a stroke here. We don't have any color. So I will say color transparent. We are not going to have any color. Instead, we are going to give text stroke. And it's going to be 1 pixel and white. Like that. And here we are going to add our 3D items. We are going to handle that later. So let's create our animation here. When I hover over any item, we are going to see a background moving through this text. Just like here. To do that, I'm going to create one more text right under this text, and we can give a color for that text. So we are not going to make any changes for the first text. We are going to change only second text's color. You are going to understand better right now. So let's create our second text. To do that, we are going to be using after selector. I will say after, and we are going to give here a content, and we can write anything we want here. For example, let's say test. As you can see, it adds this text right after our item. But I want to move that text right under my text here. To do that, we can use position absolute. I will say position absolute. It's going to be top 0 and left 0. And again, remember, if you are using absolute positioning, the parent should be position relative. And as you can see, it starts from here. What if I change this content name, content text, let's say web design. And right now, as you can see, it's under my text. Perfect. This is what I want. And if I change its color, let's say pink, for example, as you can see, we just filled our text. Only thing we should do is giving an animation. But what about other items here? So instead of this content, we can make it dynamic. To do that, we can use a prop here. I will say text, and it's going to be the item. So using this prop, text prop, we can reach to this item. It's really easy to do that using styled components. I'm going to come here and say, take the props and return me props.text. And right now, as you can see, we have all our texts here. Right now, let's give our animation. When I hover over my list item, I'm going to change this after selector's background color. I mean text color. Let's do that. I will come here and say add a hover effect, and when I hover over this list item, it's gonna affect this after selector. Let's write here color, and you can see better. I will hover. As you can see, this is what we expected. But instead of giving directly color, we can give an animation. So I will say animation name, let's say move text. It's gonna take 1 second, or let's say half second. It's gonna be linear. This is the timing function, basically says its speed will be linear. It's not gonna be increasing or decreasing. And let's give our keyframe the animation name, move text. Then I will say 2, and what I'm gonna do here. So if I give here a text color, let's say pink, and if I make its width 0, we are not gonna see any color. As you can see, they are still here. That's because it's overflowing. I will say overflow hidden. Like that. And if I increase its width, it was 0, and it's gonna be 100%. Let's see. Okay. By the way, as you can see, it's moving to other line. To prevent this, I will say white space, and it's gonna be no wrap. Okay, awesome. But as you can see, right after the animation, it gets back to the initial position. To prevent this, I'm gonna come here and say both. So after the animation, it's gonna stay there. Like that. It's that easy, guys. So we don't need any library, we don't need JavaScript, we just need to know a little bit CSS. So I can decrease this font size a little bit. As you can see, it's really big and it doesn't look centered. So I'm gonna come here and let's say 90 pixels. Okay, it's better. And right now we can create this contact page. Let's close this and open up contact. Quickly, let's create our sections, container, left and right side. And we are going to have a form here, which includes this title, input, text area, and a button. I'm going to write it under left. It's going to be a title, input. By the way, let's change them. H1 tag, input, text area, and a button. And of course, after this title, we are going to have our form. And that's all, I think. Let's create them here. I'll say container, left, right. And here we have our form, title. Let's copy this. Input. I'm gonna give a placeholder. Let's say name. One more is gonna be email and a text area. And it's gonna be write your message. And finally, a button, and it's going to be send. As you can see, it looks really weird. That's because it's horizontal. Let's give a style for our style components. Let's firstly separate them. And I'm going to delete those. They're going to be empty. And let's start. Firstly, I'm not going to give 1400. That's because in our example, as you can see, this map contains all these right side. So I'm going to say with 100%. I'll say display flags, justify content, space between. I'm going to separate right and the left side. And I can give a gap between items. Like here. Let's center this form, but before I'm gonna give flags 1, and I will do the same thing for the right side. They are gonna be equal, and I will say display flags, align item center, and justify content center. We cannot see right now because we don't have full screen map here, but if I come here for the container, and if I say height 100%, as you can see, it's centered. Let's change its font weight, and after that, we are gonna make this form vertical. I will say font weight 200, like that. And for this form, let's give a width. I will say display flags, flags traction, and gap between each item will be 25 pixels, like that. And for each input and text area, I can give some padding. Let's say padding 20. I will copy this and paste for text area, and I'm gonna change the background color of this input, let's say light gray, maybe a little bit lighter, like that. Let's select this border and give a border radius. Five pixels. I will do the same thing for text area and this background color. What about this button? Let's check. As you can see, it's going to be pink, and the other styles will be just like this input. Background color, pink. Text color is going to be white. I'll say border none. Font weight will be bold. Cursor pointer, and I'm going to give a border radius, 5 pixels. Of course, we don't have any padding. Let's give 20. Okay, awesome. And I can increase the row number of this text area. As you can see, it's bigger. By the way, our form starts here, but in our example, it starts here. We are gonna fix that, but before, let's give a row. I will come here and I will say row, let's say 10. Okay, it's bigger. So what about this position? Let's check the left side. I'm gonna give a background color here. Okay, as you can see, it's centered, but I want to see it on the right side, not on the center. To do that, I'm gonna delete here and say flex end. Okay, perfect. So I can delete this. And let's create a map here. To do that, we are gonna be using React Simple Maps. I'm gonna copy this. Actually, I'm using Yarn, so I'm gonna copy here. I'm gonna open up my terminal, a new terminal, and I will say yarn add React Simple Maps. Let's check the examples. As you can see, there are many options here. You can add here any country, any city, or even continents. In our example, we are going to be using the Europe continent. Let's check our documentation. As you can see, we are going to need a new component that we can add our map. And in this example, it uses the whole world, like that. And also, we will be using annotations. As you can see, we will be able to show our city. So let's use this example. This is actually what we need. I'm going to open this sandbox and we are going to need this component. I will copy here and I'm going to explain them. And let's create a new component and it's going to be map.jsx. Let's paste. I'm going to shrink here and close my menu. As you can see, we are going to create our map first. And inside this map, we are going to add our location. Using this prop, we can pass here any map. As I said, it can be the Earth, any continent, country. In our example, we are using this Europe map. I'm going to open here, these features, and I'm going to add it to my application. Let's open up the public folder, features, and I'm going to paste. As you can see, it includes every country and its borders. Let's use that in our contact page. In the right side, I'm going to say map. Actually, let's change this name. Our file name is map. Just like this. Let's check. And it's here. As you can see, we can choose any country here. And if we want to, we can add different color when we click here. But we are going to need only this annotation. And also, as you can see, it's overflowing. So I need to give a width and height. I will come here. And for map, I'm going to add here a style. Inner style. So I will say width is going to be 100%. and height. Okay, it's here. Right now I want to change its color. Let's come here and change this color. It's gonna be a dark blue, just like that. And let's come here. As you can see, our map is a little bit bigger, so we can give a zoom effect. And also we are gonna change this color. It's gonna be white. Let's say white, and stroke is too thick, so it's gonna be thinner, and the text will be white also. Just like that. Let's give a zoom effect. As you can see, there's a scale option here. If I increase here, we are gonna see a bigger map. Right now, if you want to, you can give another annotation. For example, here. So I can duplicate this annotation and I can change the coordinates here, just like that. Of course, you can find your coordinates on the internet. And let's change this name. And that's all. And also you can change the text and the line position. As you can see, I can change here. Right now it's closer. If I say 22, as you can see, it moves to the left side. And you can do the same thing for this stroke. Its position will be here. Let's say 0. As you can see, we don't have any direction, but if I change, it's gonna move here. Okay, and finally, let's take care of this contact form. When I send any message, we should be able to see it in our inbox. To do that, we are gonna be using email.js. Let's first collect our data from our form. So I'm gonna come here and say on submit. When we submit this form, we are gonna run this function. Handle submit. I'll say const handle submit. I will say event prevent default. Otherwise, it's gonna refresh the page. And after that, we are gonna take the input values and send it to email.js. By the way, I will say type submit. And when we click on this button, we are gonna run this handle submit function. Okay, let's open up email.js and see what we are gonna do. Okay, if you go to email.js.com and after the login process, you are gonna see this dashboard. So what I'm gonna do is to add here any email service. I'm gonna add my Gmail. And after that, I'm gonna create an email template. Basically, when someone sends any message to us, we are gonna see this template. We are gonna handle those names from the React application. Let's say name. This is gonna be our name. And this is gonna be the sender name. This and this. And also we can add here something else. So let's say email is email. So basically we are gonna receive the username here and email here and the message. Okay, I'm gonna save this and I'm gonna check here account, and this is our public key. Basically we are gonna need this key, this service key, and the template key. Let's see how we are gonna use them. I'm gonna open up documentation and let's search for React. And as you can see, we are gonna need this library. Let's install. I will say yarn add email.js. And after that, we are gonna create a ref and we are gonna add it to our form. As you can see, it includes username, user email, and message. We are gonna change it. It's gonna be just name and email and message. And using this ref, email.js is gonna reach to our data and send it to our service using this service ID. And we are gonna add here our template ID and the public key. So let's copy here and paste. Of course, we should import this first. just like that. And let's create our ref. I'm gonna close here. I will say const ref, use ref hook. Of course, you don't have to use ref hook. You can basically create use state hook for each input and send here an object. But the better option is using ref. I'm gonna do that. So I will say ref equals this ref. And of course, its name will be ref. And let's add our service ID, template ID, and public key. And paste here, service ID, and finally public key. Just like that. And if everything is okay, it's gonna return our result text. So what I want to do is to create here a use state hook and show our errors. I will say error, set error, or we can use success instead of error. Use state. At the beginning, it's gonna be false. And if everything is okay, it's gonna be true. Set success and true. If you want to, you can write here null. And if there's an error, you can change this to false. And if it's false, you can show your message. Or if it's successful, you can show different message. Let's do that. I will add here a condition. If it's successful, write here this message. And there is something important here. In our template, remember, we are using the username, message, and email. We are gonna need them. So I will come here and say name will be username, name, and it's gonna be email, and finally message. Okay, let's try. Okay, there is something wrong because I just created all my functions before my component. It's gonna be inside, of course. So let's see. I will say test, test, test. I'm gonna send. And as you can see, it's successful. Let's check our mail. As you can see, it's here. And message from test, test, and email is test. Why I didn't change their names. But anyway, it works. And that's all. I think we can create our models right now. But before creating, I just want to give you a quick tutorial about Three.js. Of course, it's not going to be a complete advanced Three.js tutorial. It's going to be just basics. I'm going to teach you how to create basic shapes, how to use Lightning, and how to import 3D objects to your project. So what I'm going to do is to create here one more component so we can test Three.js. So I'm going to close here and let's say test. And I'm going to add it here. Okay, firstly, we are going to install our dependencies. Let's say yarn add. The first dependency will be Three.js. And the second one will be React 3 Fiber. And the third one will be React 3 Dry. Let's import them and start our tutorial. I'm going to shrink this. Right now, I'm going to create a container first. I will say container styled .div. I'm just going to say 100 VH with 100%. Basically, our component will be full screen. Like that. Firstly, we should create Three.js canvas. I will say canvas. It comes from React 3 and Fiber. Basically, this is our frame. And inside this frame, we cannot create any HTML element. I cannot say div, I cannot say span or anything else. If I save, as you can see, we are going to get an error because it's a different environment. It's not like an HTML anymore. So basically, we are going to create only Three.js items inside this canvas. So let's add a geometry, which basically means a shape, any shape. To do that, we should wrap it with mesh. It's kinda our div. By the way, you don't have to import anything. As I said, it's just like an HTML. We don't have to import its elements. And inside, let's create a box. To do that, we are going to be using box geometry. As you can see, we have many geometries here. You can create any shape you want. Let's create this one. I will say box geometry. And I'm going to give its size. To do that, we are going to be using arcs. And inside this array, we are going to give our dimensions. Let's say 5, 5, 5. If I hover over here, you are going to see that we are defining its width, height, and depth. If I check out my React page, by the way, I can't scroll. So I'm gonna take this and paste here so I can snap scroll. And as you can see, this is our cube. Of course, I can decrease this size. Okay, it's better. And as you realize, it looks like an 2D object. We cannot see other edges and I cannot move it. To prevent this, we are gonna need orbit controls inside this canvas. And right now, as you can see, I can move it. And also, I can zoom in and zoom out. But I don't want to do that. That's because in our example, we shouldn't zoom in or out for our object. So I'm going to come here and say enable zoom, and it's going to be false. Right now, I can just move it like that. And also, you can rotate this object automatically. Even if you don't touch, it's going to rotate. So I'm going to say auto rotate, and it's going to be true. Like that. As you can see, it's turning. For now, I can delete here. After that, we are going to enable. And let's give a color. To do that, we should add here Three.js materials. Let's check. As you can see, we can give any color using materials. And there are many options here. You can give with shadow, basic material. As you can see, it's a plain color. Let's use this standard one. I will say mesh, standard material. And let's check its properties. As you can see, there's a color. We can change it. I will say color, and it's gonna be, let's say, red. If I save and check, as you can see, we have a material, but we don't have our color. It's because we don't have any light. Let's add. To do that, I'm gonna come here and add ambient light, and its intensity, let's say 1. And right now, we can see the color, but we cannot see our edges. That's because ambient light gives a same light for each side of the object. But if I use directional light, and let's give here any position, of course, inside an array. And right now, as you can see, we give here more light, and here a little bit less light. In this case, we can see the whole dimension of this cube. Perfect. And also, you can add any image as a material, or you can add here any text. Let's add a text. To do that, I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna create some small components inside this material. And the first one will be render texture. And inside this texture, we can add any color. Let's delete this one right now. And I will say it's a background color. And I'm gonna give my colors using arguments. And let's say pink. And I'm gonna add here a text. And let's say just hello. And here I can give any font size. Let's say 3. And I can give any color like that. Of course, I should import this. It's gonna come from dry. And to use those items, we are gonna attach here map. And as you can see, our color and this text is here. But there is something weird here. We don't have any perspective for the material. I'm gonna come here and say perspective camera. I'm gonna make it default and I'm gonna give any position here. And if you remember, our box size is 1, 1, and 1. Let's actually increase this a little bit. Let's say 2. And our texture position will be 0, 0, and 2. And as you can see, we just gave 0 for X and Y axis. This is why we see it right on the cube. And as you realize, this text font size is too big. I can come here and decrease this font size. And right now, it's much better. If I change the color, like that, but I want to give this pink color as in our example, and it's much better right now. And how I'm gonna give an animation for this text? Basically, we are gonna be using Three.js use frame hook, and using that hook, we are gonna change our text position on the x-axis. As you can see, it allows us to execute any code in any rendered frame. And when we run any code, it's gonna be invoked just before frame is rendered. After rendering this box, we will be able to give animation for this text. We can use frame in only canvas. We cannot create it here. So the better option is to move this object into another component. So I will say cube.jsx. Let's create our function and I'm gonna move it here. Of course, I'm gonna import them right here. Of course, I'm gonna use it in my parent div. Okay. And I can call my cube here. Let's check. Okay, it's still here. Right now we can use frame. So I'm gonna come here and say use frame. And we are gonna get a state. And let's see what's inside this state. And as you can see, in any second, this state is changing. And inside this object, we have a clock. And in any moment, it calculates this time because it's an animated object and we should listen every movement of this object. So I can use this elapsed time, and using that time, I can change this text position on the x-axis. It can be a little bit confusing, but if you create some Three.js projects, you are gonna understand everything better. Because it's a little bit hard to understand this concept, especially if you are not familiar with 3D objects, animations. But believe me, just read the documentation, just create some projects, and you are gonna understand everything better. Okay, so how am I gonna reach to this text? Basically, I can create here a useRef hook. So I will say const text ref is gonna be use ref, and I'm gonna pass it here. And using this ref, I will be able to reach to my position. So I can change it here. So I will say text ref and its current value and position on the x-axis. If I say state.clock elapsed time, as you can see, it's moving to right side, but we cannot see it again. That's because the number of this time is increasing all the time. So our text is going to the right side without stopping. To prevent this, we are going to be using math. I will be using sign, and I'm going to pass elapsed time. If I do that, as you can see, it stops at the edge of the cube and it continues to the left side. And I can increase this speed. Let's multiply this by 2. And as you can see, it's faster. Okay, so let's use it in our project. I'm gonna open up this who page and I'm gonna use it here. Let's copy this canvas and let's import them. Like that. So I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna delete this size. Instead, we are gonna give size using our canvas. To do that, we can use camera property. I'm gonna give any zoom effect using FOV, let's say 25. I'll say position 555. And in this case, I'm gonna change this position also. As you can see, we changed its size and perspective, and also we changed the text position. In this case, I can increase this size. And perfect. It looks pretty nice. And I showed you this camera effect. That's because I want you to understand that there is not only way to solve problems in Three.js. You have many options. You can change your item size, or you can give any camera zoom effect. You can give a rotation for your 3D item using use frame, or you can use only orbit control and right here auto rotate. As you can see, it's moving. And when you play around those properties and when you read this documentation, I believe that you are gonna build more creative projects. Okay, so let's add here another object. So we don't need this test anymore. You know the basics, you know what the canvas is, orbit control, lights, and how to use shapes. So I'm gonna delete this. And let's copy here and open up the hero section. And here, for the right side, I'm gonna paste it. And instead of this cube, we are gonna be creating Three.js sphere. Let's search for it. Basically, we are gonna create this sphere. But as you can see, we are gonna give this distortion effect. Let's do that. I'm gonna say sphere. It comes from React 3 Dry. And I'm gonna give some arguments. As you can see, it includes its radius, width, and height. So let's say 1, 100, and 200. You can give here anything you want. You can just play around here. And I'm gonna scale this. Let's give 1 at the beginning, and later we are gonna change it. And to give distortion effect, we are gonna be using a material, and it's gonna be mesh distort material. Here. Let's import them, by the way. Canvas, orbit control, sphere, and distort material. I'm gonna change this auto rotate. Oh, we have just imported them. Okay, it's here. I'm gonna delete. And let's see. Okay, as you can see, under this image, we have our object. Actually, let's comment this out, this image, and we can see better. As you can see, it's here. And to give our effect, I'm gonna add some properties. Firstly, I'm gonna give a color. It's gonna be this dark blue color, and I'm gonna say attach, and it's gonna be a material. And I'm gonna write here how much I want to distort. Let's say 0.5. As I said, you can change here. You can give any speed. Let's say 2. Okay, by the way, let's delete this camera effect. And let's see, by the way, this material should be in our object, of course. Let's see. Okay, it's here. But it's too small. Let's increase here, 2.4. Okay, if you want to, you can change its lights option. You can just play around this ambient and directional light, or you can change this color like that. And let's add our image. Okay, perfect. And we have created our 2 sections. Let's create the other one. And here we are going to have a functionality. When I click on any list item here, we are going to show different component. So I'm not going to create different items for each component. Let's create for web design, development, and product design. So when I click here, we are going to show here the web design component. I'm going to create them. Let's copy this and paste. Like that. And product design. Okay. Let's close everything and open up the works component. And here I'm going to create a use state. And I'm going to store those texts there. At the beginning, it's going to be web design. And when we click on any other list item here, we are going to update that state. So I will say const work, set work, use state hook. And at the beginning, it's going to be web design. Let's write here our condition. I will say if work equals web design, show here the web design component. Else, if it equals development, show here development, and if it's not, show the product design. Of course, it's not the only way to call our components, but anyway, it can stay like that. We have only 3 items, and I'm gonna import them like that. And when I click on this item, let's say on click, set work, and it's gonna be the item. As you can see, web design is here. I'm gonna click here, it's development. If I click here, product design. Okay, it works. Basically, we are gonna use ready-to-use 3D objects like this tablet, or this React icon, or this shoe. Of course, we are not going to create them. We are not a 3D designer, but we can find them on the internet and we can import to our project. Actually, it's really easy to do that. Okay, let's search for any model using Sketchfab. I'm going to write here, for example, chair, and I'm going to click downloadable. And let's choose a basic one. For example, this one. I'm gonna come here. Let's check first. As you can see, it's a nice chair. We can use it. I'm gonna come here and download as gltf. And I'm gonna open up this zip folder. And inside this folder, as you can see, we have some items, and this is our 3D object. But how we are gonna import this to our project? Firstly, we are gonna need gltf pipeline. You should install this library globally. So I'm gonna open up iterm, or if you are using Windows, you can open up the terminal, and I will say npm install, and I'm gonna install globally gltf pipeline. So what this library does is basically it takes our 3D model with all its files, its textures, and creates a new gltf file. And we are going to take this file and convert to the JSX file. You are going to understand better right now. If I move this gltf file into my project, it's not going to work. Firstly, I should create a new file, and the new gltf file will include this bin and textures. So let's see. As you can see, you can convert gltf to glb, glb to gltf, but we already have gltf file, so we are going to be using this one. I'm going to open up my folder. I will say desktop, chair, and I'm going to take the scene.gltf, and it's going to be chair. Let's check. As you can see, it's here. And as you realize, its size is bigger. That's because it's the combined version of all these files. But it's not enough. We should convert this to a JSX file so we can use it as a component. And to do that, we are going to be using gltf.jsx. And as you can see, it allows us to transform gltf files to JSX files. Let's do that. I'm going to copy, paste here, and I'm going to take the chair file and transform. And as you can see, it has created a new file and a JSX file. Let's move this JSX file into components like that. But also, we should import this transformed glb file into our public folder. Like that. And let's see. I'm going to open up web design, and let's create here a canvas. And I'm going to add orbit controls. Let's disable the zoom. Enable zoom will be false. And here I'm going to add my new JSX file. It's going to be chair. Let's import. Like that, and let's see. There is no export default. Let's change it. I'm going to open up my component and add here export default. Let's refresh. Okay, it's here, but we cannot see it. We should give some lightning and change the size. You can give it as we always give, but also I'm going to show you one more thing. You can add here a stage and wrap your component. I'll say environment. It's going to be city, and intensity. It's going to be 0.6. Basically, in this stage, we can give an environment and it includes a certain lightning, so we don't have to specify anything. Let's save and see, and as you can see, it's here. Awesome. So I'm gonna import this object, this shape, and this shoe. So I'm gonna move my JSX files here and 3D models here, and let's use them. For the web design, we are gonna be using Mac. Let's import this. I'm gonna change here. It's gonna be Mac. Let's see. Okay, it's here. And for the development, let's copy here. And those. I will add my component. And for the last one, product design. Again, I'm gonna copy here. And change the name. Let's see. Okay, it's here. Our shape. And shoe. Of course, we can change its color. Let's open up the JSX file. So as you can see, there's a material here. We can use our color. And let's say purple. And perfect. You can give any color you want. And what else we have? As you can see, there's a small description here. Let's use it. As I said, we cannot add here any HTML element. Instead, I'm going to create here React fragments or a div. And I'm going to add here a description. Let's say p tag, but we are using styled components. We can create it here. I will say const description styled a p tag, or we can say div, doesn't matter. And I'm going to add it here. Oops, what happened? React fragment here. I'm going to close. Okay, and I'm going to copy and paste my text. Let's add here our style. I'm going to give width and height. Let's say 200. Height 70 pixels. I'm going to give a padding. Background color will be white and border radius. Let's check. As you can see, it's not here. It's under our object. So I can use position absolute. And let's give any position here. You can position this anywhere you want. But I will say 100 pixels. Right, 100 pixels. But remember, if you are using absolute positioning, you should come here and for the right side, okay, here, I'm gonna say position relative. Or if you want to, you can give position relative for the all section. So it can be somewhere here. Let's do like that. I'm gonna cut this and paste for the section. And right now, as you can see, it's here. By the way, the color of this text is white. We are gonna change it. Let's say color black. And font size will be smaller. And font weight will be thinner. Like that. Okay. So I can do the same thing for others, but I'm gonna give different positioning. I'm gonna copy this description and paste for here and here and this description. Okay, let's change it. For example, I can say bottom. By the way, I should import this. As you can see, it's here. Maybe somewhere here, a little bit more. Where is the product design? Here. It's gonna be 200, like that. And for the development, maybe somewhere here. Let's say 200. By the way, there's a auto rotate. You can delete it or it can stay. And like that. Okay, awesome. So it's ready. Right now we can take care of the responsive design. I'm gonna open up my console and choose here mobile version. And as you can see, it looks pretty weird. So we are gonna make some changes. Firstly, I'm gonna close everything here and open up my app.js. And I'm gonna comment this out. And other components is gonna be only this hero section. We are gonna handle this first. Let's open up. And this navbar. Right now, I'm gonna comment this out, this container, and we are gonna handle only this navbar for now. Okay, to give responsiveness, we are gonna be using media query. So I'm gonna come here for section. I will say media. It's gonna be only screen. And I'm gonna give here my condition. I will say and maximum width 768 pixels. So if it's smaller than this size, it's gonna apply here. So what we want to apply? Firstly, I will say width 100%. So I'm gonna copy this for the container. As you can see, it's 1400. We are gonna change it and it's gonna be 100%. As you can see, it contains this screen right now. And I want to see here only my logo, this icon and this button. Basically, we don't need those links. Let's delete. I'm gonna come here and I will say display none. But we removed our logo also. It's not gonna be links. It's gonna be, of course, this list because it includes our logo. Let's save and perfect. I can give any padding here. Let's say padding 10. Perfect. Right now I can open my container and take care of my other components. As you can see, my container is display flags and my items are horizontal. Let's change it. Firstly, as you can see, its height is 100 VH. I'm gonna change it. It's gonna be 200. And for the container, it was horizontal. I'm gonna change it. Flags direction will be column, align item center, and justify content center. Okay, but we don't have any width. As you can see, it's too high. I will say width 100%. Like that. Of course, it's overflowing because of this image. And remember, we have a flex here for the right side. So I'm gonna change them. They are gonna be 1. Flex 1. And here. So they are gonna be equal. And remember, we said height is 200 VH. It means 100 VH will be this left side and 100 VH will be the right side here. And I can center my items here. Okay, they are centered, but the link is still same. Sorry, title, not link. So I will say text align center. And for the description, I can decrease this font size, or I can give here padding. Perfect. And I can center this. Text align center. Awesome. What about this image? Let's come here and give a width 100%. And for this image, let's give 300 and 300. By the way, why here is empty? Because there is 100 VH here. Actually, we don't need that. It can be 100%. That's because if it's 100 VH, it's going to be 100 VH also. Let's see. Okay, perfect. It's here. And this image. And I can open the other ones. Let's open up this one. Okay, and I can delete this cube. We don't need to see that. Display none. And for the right side, I will say align item center and text align center. Like that. And for this title, I can decrease this size. It's too big. Where is this title? Here. I'm gonna come here and say font size 60. Okay. And the other one, I'm gonna come here. And as always, it's gonna be 100%. And flex direction will be column. So we are gonna see our items here first, and then this 3D model. But those are too big. Let's change. Firstly, I'm gonna come here and say padding 20, and for this list item, font size will be 24 pixels. Color will be white. I don't want to see those strokes, so I can delete. Let's copy this, and it's going to be 0 pixel. We are going to have only text color. Like that. Let's center this. Justify content center. Perfect. Product. Okay, it looks nice, but we should change those descriptions. And this is here. Basically, I'm gonna put this on the middle of the screen. So let's open up web design. For this description, I'm gonna say top 0, bottom 0, left and right 0, and margin auto. And as you can see, it's centered. So I'm gonna do exactly the same thing for others. I will copy here. For development and product design. And finally, for the contact page, let's open up. Basically, I'm gonna delete my map, so I can say display none. We are gonna see only left side, which is our form. And for the left side, I'm gonna say justify content center. That because it was flex end, remember. And for this form, it was 500. I'm gonna reduce this, and it's gonna be 300. Like that. Okay, It's that easy, guys. Of course, you can do it for other screen types, for tablets, small screens, large screens, but I'm gonna do this only for mobile devices. For others, you can change using this media query. You already know how to do that. Okay, I'm gonna close everything. And right now, let's deploy our application. So I'm gonna open up my terminal, so I can close here, and I'm gonna say git and build. Let's open up. And as you can see, there's a build folder here. Basically, we are gonna take those items and upload to our server. So let's open up our dashboard, and here there's a file manager, and using this manager we are gonna upload our files. And this is our default folder. We are gonna upload everything inside this folder, and there's a PHP file inside. Let's open up our website. As you can see, this is a default page. We are not gonna use it anymore. Let's delete. And I'm gonna import my files here. Let's choose file, our build folder, and I'm gonna choose my files. And then I'm gonna upload folder, this one. Let's check. Okay, it's inside. And one more. And here. So let's see. I'm gonna refresh the page. And as you can see, our application is ready. Let's check. Play around. And it works perfectly. Let's see if it works or not. John. If there's a message here, it means it's successful. I'm gonna click. As you can see, it's successful. We are not seeing any error here. And it works as we expected. And also, our connection is secure right now. That's because we have used Hostinger SSL certificate. And that's all, guys. I hope you liked it. If you learned something new today, please like the video. And don't forget to follow Lama Dev's social media accounts. I hope I'll see you in the next tutorial. Goodbye.